Hi, and welcome to Between the Now and the Next podcast. I'm your host, Heather Injustice. Okay, so I don't usually start an episode squealing, but I might today. You guys, I've got Bob Goff on today's episode. Bob is a New York Times bestselling author and a walking pep talk. If you aren't familiar with Bob, he's the guy who writes like he's cheering you on with pom-poms, who makes living with purpose look like an adventure, and who lives like love is a verb. Whether he's writing books, launching schools around the world, or coordinating a neighborhood parade, Bob is all in on love, whimsy, and chasing big God-sized dreams. Bob will remind us to show up, take action, live loved, and that even the most painful parts of our story can be repurposed for something beautiful. Buckle up. You're gonna laugh, maybe tear up a little, and definitely leave this one feeling braver. I can't wait for you guys to hear my conversation with my friend, Bob Goff. Thanks, Bob, for joining us today. I'm so happy to see you.
You bet. Happy to be on the podcast.
So to start this out, I have to know if the listeners opened up the Bob Goff Dream Survival Kit, what 3 things would have to be in there?
Oh, wow. A dream survival kit. That would be like how to keep your dreams alive. Yeah, I would say living in anticipation would be the first thing that comes to mind. I'm a faith guy, and there's a great story about one of these guys, Elijah, that was hoping for rain. And he kept sending one of his pals up on the top of a mountain to look out to see if it was coming. And on the 7th time, the guy said, I see a cloud, and it's the size of a hand. And Elijah would tearing down the mountain and said, it's going to rain, kind of like the Noah's Ark thing. So I think living in anticipation, even if you see something small that you think, you know, what might be possible. The second thing that comes to mind if you're trying to keep a dream alive is to remind yourself about why you were dreaming it. Like, what was the reason that of all the things you could have been thinking about, this was your ambition? So just reminding yourself, sometimes our circumstances happen and life happens and it gets kind of murky. So I want to get back to the initial thought, like, why was it that I wanted to do that in the first place? Yeah. And when you return to that, you remind yourself, and I think you steel your resolve to say it was a good idea then, it's still a good idea, notwithstanding some of the circumstances. And the third thing I do is find a couple good friends. And you'll know you found the right people because they won't tell you what to do. They'll remind you about who you already are. So they're not people that are just blowing sunshine at you, but they'll remind you of your character. They'll remind you about how you've been wanting this for 20 years and have overcome a ton to get there. So just people that are a little bit longer in the tooth, that know who you are, and they can remind you, like, you're still that gal, you're still that guy.
Yeah, that's good. And going back to what you said about the story of Elijah, Megan Tibbetts just came out with that song Cloud. And
oh, isn't that a good one?
Oh, that's a good one. I've had that one on repeat. That is so good.
Come on.
Yes. But I know you've written tons of books and you're a New York Times bestselling author. And one of my favorite books that you've written is Dream Big. I love that. I've gotten so much from that book. And this podcast is actually birthed kind of from reading that book and being part of your writer's workshop earlier this year in California. And I just love how you lay out in your book. You just have to make yourself available for the opportunities that arise. Like, assume you're already invited. And so can you talk a little bit more about how someone can begin to adopt that mindset about assuming you're already invited when they've spent their whole life waiting for permission?
Yeah, there's something about that. We're taught when we're young. If you want a box of raisins, you ask for permission, and you raise your hand before you ask the question in class. And so it's not a bad thing. Nobody's conspiring against us, but there's a cadence that we get used to asking for permission. It's just politeness and it's all that. But then when it comes to our ambitions, sometimes we're asking for permission in all these really weird ways. That we think somebody has control, like the red light, green light on this. Could be a friend group, or would they approve of this? And we just need to get beyond that and to say, you know what? I already have permission to live my beautiful life and to
Yeah.
pursue these beautiful dreams. And it isn't selfish, it's strategic. So
Yeah.
there's a selfish version of that that is living this kind of entitled life, and nobody wants that person.
No.
But if you live like you've been invited to a beautiful life full of experimentation and to see
Hmm.
some things will work and some won't, but you're not hanging who you are or what you're about on whether something works. Gosh, if I did that, I would have a low view of myself because I try stuff all the
Yes.
time that don't work. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So asking for permission, sometimes seeking validation, like you're looking for the applause of others or the
Mm.
approval, as if they have a scorecard and they can hold up an 8 like an Olympic judge. And so I'm not looking for permission. I'm not looking for validation. And I'm not looking for applause. I'm not
Right.
looking for people to make a big deal about that. So I'm right back to knowing why you're doing what you're doing and be so trigger locked on that. And I get it. Like we move our head around and see what other people are doing. And if you're way out in front of something, then it makes you wonder, like, am I nuts to be doing this? But then when you remind yourself, gosh, I've given this a real lot of thought and
Hmm.
I wanted to do it for a really long time, I'm just going to do it, doggone it.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of that, you say you've tried a lot of things, you've done a lot of things, and you haven't been successful at all of them. I think not a lot of us are often successful at everything that
Oh,
we
yeah.
try. But did you imagine yourself like in where you're at now in life? Did you pursue to be an author? Was that your dream? Was that your big ambition?
Yeah, not at all. I can barely spell cat. Like, I don't know anything about that. I started writing books because we had this stuff going on with a nonprofit I'm involved in, and a publisher said they would build a school for this nonprofit if I would write a book. So I traded them one book for one school.
That's
So if I
great.
made cupcakes, people would die. So it was just more of a it was like it took less time than a car wash. So that was it. It was kind of born out of necessity and opportunity. And so for many people that are listening, you might have something that's been burning inside you.
Hmm.
I want to do something for somebody else or for somebody that you love. And then you get your head on a swivel and look for opportunities. How could I get there? And somebody said, would you write a book? I'm like, I'm in. And
Sure.
so, because the book worked, kind of cratered my career as a lawyer because I was so busy doing stuff with the book. And so I stopped being a lawyer and then started doing the next thing. And now my big ambition really is to be a grandpa. Like,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm doing. We've got four little kids running around. And
Mm.
so I'm spending a lot of my time there. I'm still involved in a couple of things, but I'm spending a lot more of my time doing that. I want to be famous with my family.
I love that. That is such a good reminder for us to be present in what's going on now and um but we can sometimes get stuck, I think, in the those moments of I'm going to be present here and then we forget sometimes to like move forward or move,
Totally,
you
all the
know.
time. And when
Yeah.
it happens, don't beat yourself up. Just say,
Yeah.
remind yourself, oh, no, no, no. I have this like really neat ambition. And sometimes people are awfully hard on themselves. And in
Hmm.
this environment, we have a lot of people that are hard on each other. And so not to give a lot of agency and control to those people. There's a
Yeah.
guy that he's it's just out there. He comes to mind as somebody who's always dogging one person or another. And I've just decided not to give him a lot of airtime in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love the line in your book in Dream Big where it says, in God's economy, nothing is wasted. That line hits really hard from my own experiences and how I have seen that nothing is wasted with what I have been through and what I've experienced. But how have you seen some of your pain or your own setbacks become some of the best ingredients for something better down the road?
Yeah, I take a lot of heart from one of the guys that wrote a bunch of the letters in the Bible, Paul. He was writing to his friends in Rome, and he said, suffering produces endurance.
Mm,
Endurance turns into character, and character has the ability to become hope. And so, as a flaming Enneagram 7, I want to go straight to hope. Like,
oh,
I don't want
yes.
to do the suffering and the endurance and all that. But I'm reminded with some of these setbacks, and there have been some large and small ones, that those things are developing things in me, endurance, character. And then the combination, the end result of that is that I'll be able to offer a little hope to the world. You know, when you see
Yeah.
people that are really old, even older than me, they just have this quiet confidence about them. They've just kind of seen it all.
Yeah.
And I think when I see people like that, it reminds me that that gives me a lot of hope. And I think it's born out of all their experiences cumulatively. A couple things
Yeah.
worked, a couple things didn't. Most things turned out a little different than they thought. But
Yeah.
having seen that, they come with a presence about them and a calmness, and it feels like their advice feels a little bit more sage.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we each, irrespective of your age, you could bring that sage voice because you've been through some hard things. And
Mhm.
so you have something to compare it to.
Yes. And I started taking on around probably Thanksgiving or Christmas time last year. I started just trying a bunch of hobbies because I said I'm going to give up this idea of failure and I'm just going to say just try it. I mean, what's the worst that can
Right.
happen?
Yeah.
So I started taking up I learned how to sew. I can't do anything fancy yet, but I'm working on it. I'm just trying new
Right.
things. So I did that. I'm teaching myself how to play the handpan. I'm teaching myself editing, doing the podcast, and doing a podcast
Sure.
in general. So, I kind of stepped back and said, I'm not afraid to fail. This is a new, fun adventure, and I'm just trying to find the fun things in life that bring me joy?
Think of that like as like fail trying, don't fail watching. So
Yes.
the side of us that wants to just watch and feel like we get green light and then, but just like, I don't know, get some bagpipes, put on a kilt, you'll look great.
Yes, I love that. I love that. No, you have said yes to lots and lots of things in your life. And you're busy and you've got a lot going on. And like you said, you're kind of trying to focus on being a grandpa now, but you've still got opportunities and things coming. So, how do you handle the times in your life when you do have all this time and these commitments? How do you help yourself to not become so overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think I spent a bunch of time in my life trying to find balance.
Hmm.
And it's a legit feeling, particularly when you're feeling a little out of balance. Like to say, gosh, if I could just stabilize enough things, if I could find that sweet spot in between. And what I've done is a little bit of a shift. I'm looking for purpose. I'm trying to say, what's the purpose of this? Instead of saying, how do I balance the good and the bad, that relaxation and work, all that, say, like, what if I pursued a life filled right to the brim with purpose? And that's been a little bit better. I'm finding myself not asking, will it work? I'm
Hmm.
asking, will it last? And so things that are lasting, I'm doing more
Yeah.
of. And things that might just work, it's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just like if it isn't going to matter later, then I
Hmm.
find myself doing a little bit less of that.
I have to compliment you and tell you something. I know you hate when people do that to you, but I just have to tell you, you are so good at loving people well and really championing people. Just letting them know that like they have a story to tell. What you have to say is important. Get it out there. Don't be afraid that
Yeah.
somebody's already said it better than you. Like you have a specific story that's important.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
we all we need is a good word from somebody,
Yeah.
something that's true and right and resonates with us. And the neat part is that we get to be that for people. And it's not, again, blowing sunshine at them, but calling out from them something that they don't see, or maybe they've seen it, been too afraid to access. But
Mhm.
just say, come on in, get over here, give it a whirl, fail,
Yes.
try.
Yes, exactly. I was listening to the audiobook the other day, Everybody Always, and the story about Carol and about how you started this neighborhood parade. And I was brought to tears when you were talking about how that parade evolved over time and then how at the end of Carol's life, how everybody rallied, man, and they just came and
Yeah.
showed up for her. And can you just like talk a little bit about that and how you really rally with people and just really love on them in life?
Yeah, I love it. It was always a lawyer like me that tried to set up Jesus. And he said, what's the big commandment? He said, love God and love the people around you, like love your neighbors. And so instead of thinking of that as a metaphor for something else, what if we just started loving the people that were on each side? And if your neighbors are like mine, some of them are a little prickly, like they're actually a little bit difficult, as am
Yes.
I. Um, and so if you want to see where you're at in your faith, in your life, just see how you're dealing with the people that are most difficult to love.
Hmm.
Because loving easy people is easy. Like
Right.
you just, who wouldn't want to do that? It's like hugging a little teddy bear.
Right.
But the people are a little bit more difficult or prickly or off-putting. They're kind of old school cynics. And then to start replacing that with a new view, to say, I really want to start right here. There's some people in faith traditions that talk about going to the ends of the earth, and I'd rather go to the end of the block. Like
Yeah.
just go do it right here. Because if it doesn't work here on Scott Street, it ain't going to work anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think there's something beautiful about that. Just start small and in significant ways to just start love your neighbor. Throw a party, throw a parade, bring
Yes.
somebody who wasn't going to celebrate Christmas because they had a big setback or a death in the family or something. Just show up with a Christmas tree and put ornaments made by all the neighbors on it.
Yes.
That is that moment that you get to pull together and say, this is what we're really about. And I
Yeah.
think we get more of those heroic things with our neighbors and less emphasis on being notable on social platforms of strangers. We feel like our life was lifted. It's not that social platforms are bad or good.
Yeah.
It's just there's something that's always good about knowing your neighbors.
I agree. I've got some really good neighbors. I like my
Oh,
neighbors
good.
pretty well. um,
There's that one guy named Billy who's a handful.
um, so this is kind of a set the scene question. I like to ask all my guests this question.
Okay.
But if you could go back and give advice to little Bobby Goff, as you call yourself,
Yeah.
during a season of waiting, what would that look like? Where would you be? Who would be around? Just kind of give me an idea so we can envision it with you.
Oh yeah, there's a in one of the books. Nobody knows who wrote the book of Hebrews, but there's a chapter 12 that talks about being surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. So
Mm-hmm.
think about all the people that have been super impactful in your life. So the scene would be surrounded by all these characters that have had a big impact, grandparents and neighbors and friends. And I think I would whisper over the shoulder of little Bobby Goff, it'll work. Like some of these
Mm,
things, like it'll work. Because sometimes we're real hesitant because we're afraid, well, what if it doesn't work?
yeah.
And I just think I want to change the conversation. There's a Zechariah 4:10. It says, don't despise small beginnings because the Lord delights in watching the work begin. So
Mm,
just start. In your life, you've had a 1-year-old and they take their first step. You don't say like, I've seen better. You go like,
right.
no, I'm so stoked they took a step.
Yes.
It'll work. And then just press in on things that are hard. You can tell I've got a cold. And instead of canceling today, I'm just leaning into it. Just like whatever. Like leukemia, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Having a cold is not a problem. So what
Mm,
people that adopt this approach, it'll work, tend to be more tenacious and they push through a perceived impediments.
hmm.
They just say, like, I would want little Bobby Goff to do that.
That's so good. That's so good. Thank you for giving us that visual of what that looks like for you.
Yeah.
Um, but and I'm sorry you're sick. I'm
Yeah, I don't know. I went kind of like cramming for finals. I was on a couple of international trips, and there was one trip where I went 23 hours
oh
without
wow.
getting a rest. And I just knew, when you push it, you can push it for a moment. And I
Yep.
knew I was going to get a cold, and sure enough.
Oh, of course,
But
of course.
yeah, I know. But it'll make my voice gravelly. I sound like Neil Diamond or something.
There you go. That's perfect. But yeah, I just want to share with you coming out to the Oaks back in the end of February this
Oh, I'm
year.
so glad you came.
Yes, it was such a great experience. I took so much from that. I've been working on some new and upcoming projects, and
Oh, good. What are you
um,
working on?
I'm working on the packets for my next book.
Nice. Well, describe a packet. I know what you're talking about.
Yes. So a packet is you give your audience, you want to give them something relatable. You want to give them something to that'll make them laugh, make them cry, then flip the script, and then make them think, and then leave it unresolved.
That's it. That's a great packet. I was in the Midwest talking to a bunch of guys with cowboy hats on, and people tease me because I'm from California, and they think, we're super liberal and crazy and all that. And it's probably all true. Um, but they'll say these things like, you're a couple fries short of a Happy Meal or something that actually kind of make me giggle. And there was a guy that came up to me and he said, I don't think your lid's on right. And I was thinking, I've never heard that one. And then when I was deciding whether to be offended or not, I realized he was talking about my coffee cup. He was talking about the lid on my coffee cup. He was just trying to be helpful.
Oh,
He didn't want me to spill it in my lap.
well,
And
that
it
was
was a
nice.
great, like, think of a packet would
Yeah.
be to be a little bit less quick to be offended. Because
Mm,
some people are actually trying to be helpful. And
yeah.
and so if we're always taking offense, if we're always like, you can't tell me that, or who are you to be saying that, then we miss some of the blessings of people that are actually trying to be helpful. To just put that extra beat or two in there. That's been a big
Yes. Yes. And that call on December 27th, 2024, when I called you that afternoon,
yeah.
I'm telling you that was so cool. I'm like, I'm listening to your audiobook in the car, and then I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and call him now. I'm
Oh,
ready.
I'm glad you did.
And I called and I'm like, oh my gosh, he answered and this is him and it's his voice. Like, this is the guy I'm listening to on the audiobook. And so
Yeah.
that was so cool. And to get to have a conversation with you and then come out and really learn from you and Taylor and Kim and to get to experience that was so neat. And I'm still like processing and thinking things through from that time out there. And it was honestly, it felt like adult summer camp, like you said. But man, what a cool experience and so much information I gleaned from that. And it really did spur me on and push me forward and give me the confidence to do what I needed to do when I got home.
Yeah, there's
So,
something about going to safe places,
mm-hmm.
and you could make the Starbucks down the street a safe place. It's an
Yes.
expensive safe place, but just find a safe place, find some safe people, get around, get clear on what your ambition is, and then set a couple of goals. Like this is how we're going to get from here to there. And
Yes.
sometimes it's not that there anything tricky about it. It's just finding the time to sit down to do that. And I love the idea of getting a calendar out and just starting to say, okay, by this date, I'm going to try to be here. And if you're not there, don't beat yourself up, but to say, okay, let's recalibrate and to say, was that a distraction? And if it was, is there any way to eliminate that so I can really get from here to there? Because most
Yes.
people aren't trying to figure out what they want to do. They're trying to get the courage to do what they already know they want to do.
Right.
It isn't
Right.
like I have no idea what I want to do. It's like, no, no, you already know. You
Mm-hmm.
just need to have that, whatever it is, that'll get you the confidence to say, no, I'm actually going after that. I'm going to do it.
Exactly. And you are so good at encouraging us to do that. And so thank you for that. And thank you for the time that you took here with me to
Oh, heck
talk
yeah.
and
This is a treat. You're touching lots of lives. So I
thank
hope you'll
you.
keep it up, Heather.
Thank you so much. And I just really appreciate just your books, the way you deliver the gospel, your outlook on life, and just that I can call you friend. So I'm
Oh,
really,
good.
really grateful
Likewise.
for that. Thanks a lot for coming on today, Bob, and I'm sure we'll be chatting soon.
Okay. It was a real treat.
All right, take care. I hope you all enjoyed that conversation with Bob. Isn't he awesome? I just love him. I love that he can bring a fresh perspective and how he just has so much excitement and energy, even when he's sick. But check out his books. I love Dream Big. But I've been listening to Everybody Always, Love Does, and Undistracted. His newest book, a devotional, was released in December of 2024, and it's called Catching Whimsy. You literally can't go wrong with any of them. Bob also has speaking and writers' workshops that take place at the Oaks Retreat Center in Ramona, California. And if those kind of workshops don't interest you, there are plenty of other retreats that take place at the property all throughout the year. It is such a magical place. It is gorgeous to visit. And if you go, you won't be disappointed. In the show notes, there is lots of information to keep you connected with Bob. You can find his Instagram handle and the link to the Oaks Retreat Center to see all they have going on that you can be a part of. Can you all just take a minute and visit Bob's Instagram and let him know how much we appreciate him being on the podcast, especially for him showing up despite being sick. He just leaned right in like he talked about, and I'm so thankful for that. If today's episode spoke to you, share it with a friend, leave a review, and be sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss what's coming next. All of these actions really help podcasts like mine get out into the world and reach more listeners. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, keep living between the now and the next.